When the world collapses and the dead rise from their graves, everyone suddenly becomes an architect of survival. Some run to the bunkers buried beneath cities, others barricade malls and prisons. But a rare kind of survivor, one with a flair for the dramatic and a love for the stars, might look up at a hilltop dome and whisper, "What about the observatory?" At first glance, it sounds poetic. You, standing under a shattered sky, surrounded by chaos, take refuge in a building made to study the heavens. There's something cosmic about it, like humanity returning to its place of wonder as the earth rots below. But before you grab your telescope and a can of beans, let's look at this idea from both the romantic and brutally realistic sides. Because, as with all things in the apocalypse, beauty doesn't always mean survival. Observatories are often isolated, perched high above civilization. That sounds like a dream when zombies are everywhere. No crowds, no noise, no infected tourists trying to eat your face while you're microwaving a can of soup. The climb alone might save your life. The average zombie isn't known for its mountain hiking skills. Picture the scene. A spiral road curling up a lonely hill, wind howling through rusted railings, and you at the top, the master of an old observatory fortress, surrounded by panoramic emptiness. If there was ever a place where peace could still whisper, it's here. The first thing you'd notice is how defensible it feels. Most observatories are circular, thick-walled, with narrow doors designed for minimal human traffic. A few good barricades, and you're fairly safe from a frontal rush. Zombies might pile up against the dome, scratching and growling at the steel, but good luck breaking through concrete meant to outlast decades of weather. The elevation also gives you the advantage of sight. You can see for miles. The approach of any horde will look like a slow-moving tide, giving you hours to prepare or to panic, depending on your personality. Then there's the psychological factor. Unlike a mall or a police station, the observatory wasn't built for chaos. It was built for silence. Inside, echoes hum through the metal corridors. Light flickers off curved walls, and dust floats like drifting galaxies in thin air. There's a strange peace in that. When everyone else hides in dark basements filled with mildew and despair, you're up there staring through a telescope, reminding yourself that the universe is still working fine. Saturn still spins. Jupiter still storms. Humanity might be gnawing on itself, but the stars don't care. Of course, you'll need food. The observatory's vending machines are probably long empty, and unless the previous astronomers stocked up on apocalypse rations, unlikely. There were probably more in a coffee and granola bars. You'll have to bring your own supplies. The altitude makes farming difficult, though some greenhouses could be improvised if you have the patience. Flat rooftops or old terraces might support small gardens. You'll have to rely on canned goods, scavenging trips, and maybe solar power gadgets to cook and purify water. Water, that eternal problem. Most observatories are far from rivers and lakes, perched where the air is dry and the horizon is clear. So unless your observatory has a collection system for rainwater, you're going to find yourself lugging gallons uphill from somewhere below. Zombies love noise, so every trip becomes a potential death lottery. The hike back with a heavy load? Let's just say you'll feel like a contestant on The Walking Dead, Extreme Fitness Edition. Electricity could be another challenge, or a blessing. Many observatories already use solar panels or have backup generators to keep instruments running. You could hijack those systems for your own use. If you're lucky enough to be in a modern facility, you might even have satellite communications. Imagine that. While everyone else is bashing rocks together in caves, you're streaming radio signals, sending Morse code messages, or trying to detect alien life, who might be the only uninfected beings left to talk to. Then comes the question of sound. Observatories are acoustic wonders. Their domed ceilings bounce every footstep, every whisper, every can opening like an echo from the abyss. It's beautiful when you're observing the cosmos, but horrifying when silence is your only defense. Zombies may not hear as sharply as humans, but sound carries far in those cold mountain winds. Drop a wrench, and you might summon half a valley of hungry corpses trudging upward like lost pilgrims. Let's also not forget temperature. High-altitude observatories are freezing at night. The wind cuts through cracks, the metal dome radiates cold, and without consistent heat, you'll feel like you're camping inside a refrigerator. Blankets, sleeping bags, and anything flammable become gold. Fire is a double-edged sword. It gives warmth and hope, but also smoke and visibility. Imagine lighting a fire in the dome, the flicker glowing against the white curve of the telescope, while outside in the dark, something snarls. That's the kind of insomnia no coffee can fix. But maybe the biggest issue is isolation. The observatory is quiet, too quiet. No traders passing by, no chatter on the road, no help if something goes wrong. If you get sick, break a leg, or get surrounded, it's just you and the stars. Some might find that romantic, others would find it maddening. Humans aren't built for total solitude, even in a world that's ended. The silence becomes its own kind of monster, whispering doubts into your head, making the moaning of the undead sound almost like company. Still, there's an undeniable poetry to surviving in such a place. Imagine waking up each morning, stepping outside to the terrace, the entire dead world stretched below in fog and ruin. The air is thin, the horizon wide, and the only sound is the wind scraping against the dome. You point your telescope toward a burning skyline and see not cities, but constellations of fire. You can name the stars again, Orion, Vega, Polaris, and remember when people used to look up at them from safe, glowing cities. The apocalypse has stripped the world of light pollution, so the night sky is alive again, magnificent and cruel. It's ironic, really. The observatory, once built to understand distant stars, becomes the last refuge of a dying species staring back at its own reflection in the void. The telescope, once a window to infinity, now watches a finite world crumble. You can almost hear the voice of a long-dead astronomer whisper, "So this is what extinction looks like from above." Now, let's talk defense more practically. The structure's isolation helps, but if a horde does reach the top, you're in trouble. There's often only one main entrance, maybe a service hatch or two, and no easy way out. You can't exactly rappel down the side of a dome unless you've got climbing gear and nerves of steel. Once trapped, you'll have to fight in close quarters, with a curvature of walls and narrow hallways make maneuvering tricky. The good news, zombies aren't known for tactics. The bad news, neither are panic survivors swinging metal pipes in panic. Weapon storage? Slim chance. The average observatory isn't packing an armory, unless it's a secret government facility disguised as a research site, in which case, congratulations, you've hit the jackpot. But assuming it's a civilian one, your best weapons are improvised: tripods, metal bars, old telescope mounts, maybe a makeshift spear. You can use elevation to your advantage: rocks, fuel cans, or even rolling office chairs down the stairs to block entrances. It's not glamorous, but it's survival. There's also an argument for community. If you manage to gather a few survivors, say an engineer, a medic, a cook, and one guy who claims he used to look after telescopes for NASA, the observatory becomes more than a hideout. It becomes a tiny civilization. The dome's rotating roof could serve as a lookout post. The base could store supplies. The underground levels could host sleeping quarters. And at night, when the world sleeps uneasily, you all could climb up to the observation deck and stare into the endless void together. It might be the closest thing to peace left on Earth. In the long run, the observatory's sustainability depends on your creativity. With solar energy, rainwater capture, and scavenging runs, it's possible to last months, even years. The remoteness keeps you safe from human raiders, often more dangerous than zombies, and the elevation helps prevent surprise attacks. But the lack of arable land, wildlife, and easy resupply means that eventually you'll face the slow hunger. Not the quick, screaming kind that eats flesh, but the quiet one that gnaws at your ribs and your sanity. Still, there's something to be said for ending the world with a view. Imagine your last days spent beneath the dome, wrapped in blankets, scribbling notes by candlelight as the telescope tracks a comet drifting across the void. You've outlasted the cities, the noise, the wars. You've watched the stars reclaim the night. Hello, If anyone's out there, the observatory still stands. So is it good or bad? It's both, beautifully and brutally both. The observatory is a dream for thinkers, loners, and sky watchers, but a nightmare for the unprepared. It's isolation with a view, serenity with starvation, peace perched on the edge of madness. You'll survive longer than most, but at a cost. Your sanity, your warmth, and eventually, your hope. Yet there's a strange glory in that. Because when the undead finally climb the hill and the last light fades from Earth, someone, somewhere, will still be looking up.